Regina, hi, how are you?
Hi, Faridoon. I'm good. How are you?
Very well, superb. I must tell you that I'm a huge fan of your work in Rocket Boys.
Thank you. Thank
I
you so
think
much.
you were outstanding. And if we can start with Rocket Boys, for example,
Yes.
I think it was an extremely layered character. There were many dimensions to her.
Yeah.
If we start with the entire classical dancing part of it, you're a trained classical dancer yourself. And I think it was truly magnetic the way it was presented. So was the classical dancing factor one of the reasons for you to have said yes to the project, or there was more to it?
Firstly, thank you, Faridoon. That's actually really sweet of you. Um, Honestly, calling myself a trained classical dancer will be pushing it a little bit. To keep things real, first of all, playing the character of Mrinalini Sarabhai, I don't think um, is very easy, even for a trained classical dancer, because she's a stalwart and she was someone who she created a legacy, and you can see it even today in the present day. So yes, I did learn Bharatanatyam when I was young. For about 4 years, I'd learned, and I was always a part of the Indian dance club and Western dance club in college. And dance has always been a part of me. Dance and drama was always a part of my growing up. Was a major part of school and college. And the moment I heard that they were doing auditions for this particular character, I was very excited. And I had a conversation with Nikhil and Abhay as well. And then, I got down to doing the audition. And when everything clicked and they said that I'm actually playing the part, I had this little, I can't call it fear. It was more of a fire that started burning in me, because now I wanted to play the role to the T, because this playing a classical dancer is one thing, but playing someone who has pioneered in this art form. She's not just a Bharatanatyam dancer, So it felt like a big responsibility. And when Rocket Boys released, people in Chennai started telling me how Mrinalini Sarabhai's family, her family home, is like one street away from my school, and they lived right there, and people started talking about it. So it was very interesting, because as a Tamil girl as well, to play someone who people knew and people have seen and have met was very interesting as an actor also.
I can talk for the entire day as far as this particular series and your character is concerned. But one more aspect that really fascinated me in the series was that element of romance between you and Vikram Sarabhai, because I think it was extremely unconventional. The mere fact, the way she is buttoning his shirt, there is romance in that, for example.
Yeah.
And it is something which is because the entire mood, the way it has been developed, and then she simply goes and just buttons his shirt, and there is that moment, because she is still being non-committal, and he's unsure that whether he wants to go to UK or what it's all about. And be it the way he just lands at her house, and the way he makes that announcement, that had a beautiful moment to it as well. Did you find it wonderful, the way the entire love story was developed?
Actually, yes. It was very interesting, because how also, playing such characters, they are who they are today, but they were also becoming who they are today back then. The present moment was their becoming of who we know them as. So it's very interesting to inculcate whatever we've heard about them. And Mrinalini has written a book as well, and in the book, she's written how they also met, and there was always this wittiness from both of them. Both of them were very witty and very charming as people. That was a very common factor between the two of them. I love how Abhay brought out that in his scenes. How he made it work for the audience as well. In fact, in fact, the first scene where the scene where he calls out to her Sita, that's the scene we rehearsed quite a bit. We would just like rehearse it and then add to it and then subtract from it. And it was very interesting developing these scenes. Abhay did a great job with writing of those scenes, especially. I and pulling it off was very interesting. Also, I still remember that day when we were shooting. The atmosphere on set itself was very, everyone was pulling everyone's leg, and it was a very fun atmosphere. Although it was a very romantic setup, there's an element of each other toying with each other, sort of a thing, like waiting for the other person to say something, and pushing it to the edge. And also, it was back in the day, right? We have to keep it. We have to keep that underlying layer of like that underlying sensual layer, but not push it too far as well. So I feel like that definitely helped with the scene.
No, definitely, definitely. I think that underplaying part of it, I think, is the romance.
Yeah.
When she realizes that Vikram Sarabhai is not being loyal to her, somehow the level of restraint that you display, like obviously your character is displaying, but as an actor, it's never extra. There's no outburst. There's never an outburst.
Yeah.
She's saying a lot of things just in a few sentences, and she understands that his work is of national importance, and right now one cannot really disturb that mental space that he's in, because that is his passion. That's what he lives for. So that level of restraint that is displayed, and that level of dignity. So she's still not a woman who's being weak. She has made it clear to him that she is not really aiming for his romantic attention anymore. So that level of dignity is there as well. So that's a very complex character to play in that particular context. But very well done.
Faridoon, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but you know what? Mrinalini Sarabhai was anything but weak. Like, no. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that with so much passion, in spite of not having ever met her in my life, is because meeting Malika Sarabhai and even Revanta, the two people who were a major part of making this show, as well. And when you meet Malika Sarabhai, you meet a really strong woman. Like, you can feel her energy 10 feet away. And the day I stepped into Darpana, we were rehearsing over there once, and I spent a few days there. And the day I stepped into Darpana, I felt an energy, and I mean, this is the only way I can explain it, and it might sound very like big or something, but the energy that I felt there moved me so much that I had tears in my eyes. Just to see that someone has created such an impact. They've had more than 75,000 artists come out of that school. So when I read the book again, and she talks about certain things, there's an underlying layer of, you can actually read through this person. More than what she's also saying in the book, there's also what she's not saying in the book, which is beautiful. To be in the center of everything at that day and age, and to still hold your ground, and to still, you are impacted by all these things in your personal life, but to still not let it break the major things, the bigger things that are happening in life, is very difficult. Like, and that too, to do it, and to do it with class. I mean, like, hats off. Like, all I can say is that I really wish I met this person and I got to know her better. And however one has to handle it, they will handle it. But the fact is that they handled it. And no one talks about these things, So it was so beautiful to dive into that. And in fact, it teaches if I have to break away from being an actor, it teaches me a lot as a person as well. If someone being in the middle of all this attention and being watched constantly can actually do something with such finesse and not create any bad waters for anybody. And the family is now making a show on their lives, and they didn't want to not bring in every aspect of the life of their lives. They wanted to keep it real. Is a big thing. It's in our country. It's a big thing. Being Indians, it's definitely a big thing. So when you see all of that, you see where the families come from. So it's it's beautiful, the energy that they've instilled in the family. It carries on. And if you meet Malika Sarabhai, she's such a cool person. She's well read and she's interesting to talk to. And even when you go to Darpana, the vibe that you get in Darpana, I happened to party with them one night, and it's just a beautiful vibe. And that's so interesting. So when you say the way she restrained, it wasn't even restrained. I think it was just she knew how to handle the situation best. It was difficult. It's not easy. Um, but she also had something going for her. She was like she was already creating waves in the art space, and so it was, yeah. I mean, I can also keep talking about this. It's just so much. She made this Padma Shri, and like what more do you want, right? So she was doing her thing, and that's just beautiful. It's very very beautiful to take away things from her as well.
Right. What about season 2?
Oh, that was a quick question. um, season two is, I'm actually looking forward to season two. Mainly because after season one, I think Abhay has gone back to, we actually shot quite a bit of season two when we were shooting itself. But I think Abhay has now revisited his scripts and he's back again. We are going to continue shooting soon. I have a really, really um, there's a lot of high octane energy emotions happening in season two because I mean it's going to be quite a wave to ride in season two. A lot of ups and downs, that I can guarantee. I have one of my favorite performances. That's what I practiced my entire probably life for now. There's a really nice performance by Mrinalini Sarabhai in the show, as in like I'll be performing in the show. So about a 3-minute performance. I'm really looking forward to it. I We were in Jaipur shooting, and this was our first schedule. Um, and I danced from 9 p.m. We were shooting a scene prior to that, so we were shooting from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Like this little dialogue, and from 9:30 maybe I started shooting for this song, and we finished at 7 a.m. in the morning. So through the night I danced, and it was crazy because, and Revanta's also in the song with me. So yeah, I'm so kicked about it.
So, and are there any confrontational scenes between the two women?
No, watch it. Watch it.
Watch it. Okay, so
Because
there.
it's going to be very beautiful. I guarantee that it's going to be very beautiful. I told you, right? It's going to be emotions all over the
No,
place.
firstly, I'm looking
But
forward to it. Yeah.
but that's now what before we launched season one, it was all of that. Now I'm sure Abhay like added a lot more and made it a lot more. I'm sure like he's
Definitely.
done a few things, so I'm excited.
I personally feel it's one of the best things to have come out of Indian entertainment space.
Wow.
The language has been used. There's so much of I think profuse usage of English as well, because many times the milieu that is shown in the series, that is like upper middle class and like maybe upper class, and say Parsi family and a guy who has come from Cambridge. So they do speak in English, even in
Yes.
their day-to-day conversations. So to have that level of natural sort of conversation is I think is a fantastic, I think, aspect as well. Okay, so recently I interviewed Ranbir Kapoor and I asked him that what is that one web series that he has really liked in the recent times. So he said Rocket Boys. and apparently he has been praising the series quite a bit. So do you guys find it fascinating that there's so many people who are within the industry who have such wonderful things to say about this particular series?
Absolutely. Wow. This is something anyone who's a part of a show or a film would want to hear and see. And I was so excited. It was just beyond like anything that I'd ever thought. These are things you'd wish for. And when they happen, it's just you take a moment to like, just take it all in.
Great. Now, I saw you in Ek Ladki Ko Dekha To Aisa Laga, and now obviously the way you impressed in Rocket Boys, I think was another level altogether. I was doing my research and I saw one of your songs in Acharya with Chiranjeevi. And so I am not someone who judges, because I think every actor does very wide variety of roles. But Rocket Boys to Acharya were two different things completely for me. It's like, because at times you start owning certain characters, certain shows. You feel that you literally own them because they become so special. As an actor, how do you look at yourself in terms of the element of variety, and maybe do you feel that maybe Rocket Boy is something that you were closest to, and you'd always wanted to be in that space, and you finally got that? What are your views on your journey, and do you think that you've hit the sweet spot now?
You're the second person to ask me that, in fact. Do I think I mean, not the sweet spot, but do I think I've reached my peak? Since you asked journey, it's going to be a long answer, Faridoon. I hope you're okay with this.
Absolutely. No, go ahead.
So when we talk about my journey, this is more like the journey has always been there through films. I started as a career in 2011, but in 2011, prior to that, I had quite a bit of experience with facing the camera. I did like about 100 ads. I anchored for a children's channel called Splash Channel, which was very famous in Chennai. And everyone knew me by my nickname Sweetie then, thanks to the channel. But I figured that I had a gift of the gab. I was okay being in front of the camera. I knew how to dance. I loved drama. So there was always this aspect of this in life, but I never picked acting up till I decided to take it up as a career in 2011 post-college. I thought I'd be a psychologist and I'll do criminal psychology. That's what I did my bachelor's in also, did my BSc psychology in WCC. So till I took that decision in 2011, because I was getting a lot of offers. I did like about 10 short films when I was in college. And that was sort of like my show deal. So I didn't really have to go to people and tell them, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I got calls from a couple of directors in Hyderabad saying we'd like you to be, come audition for this film. And it was really that easy to get up till there. And I figured, okay, fine, I'll give it a year and I'll see it. So when I got into the industry and after post my first film release, a lot of the journalists kept asking me, putting this little stick, and that too prior to this, back then there was no Instagram, it was only Facebook. So social media was just growing. So I never had any idea of how to be an actress other than go act and come back. Like my hairstylist, makeup artist, everyone was provided by the company. So I was that naive as a person. But when I would go for interviews, everyone would ask me, things like about what I think about an actress's shelf life. This whole thing about, casting couch, and then you'll have to work with certain heroes if you want to be a certain level of an actress. Different things like just I wouldn't even understand what to say to these things, because all of this was new to me. So when all of these things started happening and people started like putting these things in my head, like typecasting and everything, for me, the only thing is I can't relate to that. I come from a non-filmy background. I have very different thoughts about life. when people say don't do this, I'm just like, why? Like that's who I am as a person. It's a very innate characteristic. Why don't do this? Why? What's the reason for doing it? It has to be a sensible reason. And most of the time, no one has a reason. It's just that's how it is. It's like there's this handbook that we have, but there's no handbook. It doesn't exist, but these things exist. So to break away from all of these things, I always go inward to see what it is that I want from myself, And the one thing is, apart from being cliche and saying enjoying life, the one thing is, I would love to do everything. I want to play every character. I want to, like, if like you'd seen Rocket Boys first, so hence you related to Mrinalini, and I'm so happy. You know, uh, the same way I feel like if you see another character of mine, you would invest yourself in it. That for me as an actor is what I want to achieve. So whatever it is that you saw, I would like for people to be invested in. Um, uh, I love playing different roles. I love asking why. I love getting into the more than skin. I like getting into the head of the character.
Exactly.
So these things are so important for me to understand. And sometimes I'm very erratic in my way of doing it as well. It's not like I'll sit and I'll just keep like reading up or finding out or doing homework or something. I love observing life. So when I see a certain characteristic that I have as a character in someone, then I'm paying more attention to their behavior. So sometimes it's just not all about or reading material or something like that. It's about understanding as well. So which is so important, and that's what drew me to psychology as well. It's about understanding behavior, and I feel like all of this it comes together so well. So um, I don't know what you thought when you saw my song with Chiranjeevi Garu.
No, I think
But
I did not think anything, in the sense that, see, my approach is that I think one should be as non-judgmental as possible. It is not entirely possible to be completely non-judgmental. That's something which is humanly not possible, but still. I found it like diametrically opposite. So
yeah,
as you said that you try to get into the head of the character. So like in Rocket Boys, it's a very cerebral performance,
yeah,
even with your mere silence, with the way you're looking, you're conveying so much.
yeah,
There's a lot of, if there has to be a magnetic appeal in the youthful part of it, in terms of the beauty element, then that is there. When there is element of grace is required, or stoic element is required, that is there as well. So I'm saying from that perspective that in terms of it's extremely cerebral,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm sure that you just started. I genuinely feel that there's a lot more to come.
So
Okay, so
So to
Jill,
answer your own question, that haven't hit the sweet spot yet, but it's getting there.
right? All right, definitely we'll be waiting for that.